Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom with Kate Olson. As an evolving spirit and change adventure navigator, it is Kate's mission to empower and guide you on your path and inspire your truest passions. She will encourage you to share your gifts, speak your truth, and ignite your inner wisdom and purpose. She hopes to do so with a little humor and grace and her own soulfire passion. Kate talks with amazing guests who have embraced the pursuit and are fanning the flames of their own passion, purpose, and soulfire wisdom. Now here's your host, Kate.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Soulfire Wisdom and Totally Awesome. Try something new and talk about it Tuesday. So I've talked about the subject of self-care quite a few times before, and I try to pay attention to self-care, and I actually do something every single day to make myself feel good, something that I like, enjoy. But I kind of noticed that I was a little bit stingy with myself. I would not go as all out, on my own self-care as I would, if I were trying to show caring, appreciation for somebody else. And I was kind of surprised to realize that. I would do this one little thing for myself and, okay, I did my self-care thing. So I tried to, go a little bit all out for myself over the holiday weekend. Mm-hmm. So I have had these packets of Epsom salt baths. Mm-hmm. That, I've had them for a long time and I planned on using them, but I haven't, I've just, it just seemed like, too much time to do that. So I took, used one of the packets and took an Epsom salt bath. And while I was taking my Epsom salt bath, I also used essential oils in the bath and misted them in the air. And I took like an hour-long bath.
Wow.
And gave myself a pedicure. And I was just like super self-indulgent. And it felt good. And I think I'm going to have to do something like that, at least once a month going forward. I actually felt pampered.
That's good.
That's not a feeling I've had very often. So
yeah,
I highly recommend spending a little time and pampering yourself.
I agree.
So we have a great show planned for today and a great guest. Jo Ann Kobuke is the founder of Midlife Rewritten. She's a speaker and a coach, and she helps women answer the question, what's next? Like so many women of her generation, she put herself on hold while she created a life for her family. Then, when the kids did exactly what they were supposed to do and left the nest, she faced her own dilemma. It was a bittersweet time, and it led her to examine what she wanted for her own life. It took some serious soul searching into who she was, what was important, and her strengths before she decided to become a certified coach and create her coaching business. Jo Ann now helps midlife women to believe in themselves and overcome many of the same hurdles she experienced to make their long delayed dreams become reality. So I'd like to introduce Jo Ann now. And hi, how are you?
Hi, Kate. I'm fine. Thank you for letting me be here today with you.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. I know this is something that a lot of, well, especially women, but both women and men face when, you know, they go through a big change like their children leaving home, or even when they come to retirement and they're leaving their jobs.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself? And, you know, we mentioned some of the circumstances that brought you to your current path.
Well, I did what all good girls do. I went to school. I was lucky enough to go to college. I came out and got a professional job. I had a career. I did, ticked all the boxes, doing exactly what society told me I was supposed to do, right? Found a good husband, had a family, all of those wonderful things. And I'm grateful for that life. But we all have those dreams that we, keep to ourselves for the most part, and we're taught to kind of put those on hold because you've got all these other things that you have to do, but they nag at you, right? You keep thinking about them. And I had always wanted to have a business. My mother owned a flower shop, and other people in my family had businesses, and I wanted to do that, but I didn't want to do it in my career, because that wasn't something that I wanted to like spend all my days doing. Right? I was happy as an accountant. I worked with nonprofits, and that was a very rewarding industry to be in because of their heart-centered mission, which appealed to me much more than kind of the general corporate life. I was in the corporate life for a while, and that's great, but at some point you want to talk about it a little bit more than just the bottom line and who's going to get a bonus this year and those kinds of things. So I got to a point where my kids were at the point where they're getting ready to go off to college. My oldest one was already gone. My younger one was about ready to go. And so, you could see it coming, right? That empty nest, that kind of cliche thing about, okay, now, honey, it's just you and me across the breakfast table. What are we going to do? And it really gives you time to think about, well, what do you want? And what I found was that not only had I put my dreams on hold, but I kind of had put my own personal growth on hold. So I worked as an accountant, doing, all of the finance and all of that kind of stuff. And I was basically hiding behind a computer screen most of the time, doing my work, working with other people in my department, all of that kind of stuff. And you test yourself, but you test yourself in different ways, right? And so I really thought, okay, now that I'm here on my own, I left my job because, it was time. And I was starting to look around and figure out, okay, well, what do I want next? I've had this idea about having a business, so what are you going to do about that? I'm like, okay. There's like a big lump in my throat. And my heart was like, woo, because I thought, well, I don't know how to do that. I really, how does that work? And the more I did research and kind of looked online and, all of this kind of stuff, it became clear to me that, well, I was really going to have to like get myself out there if I wanted to have a business. And as you well know, right, it's like you can do the best work in the world, but if nobody knows about you, you're not helping anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So the issue of, well, what exactly was I going to do? Because I didn't want to do accounting. I didn't want to have an accounting business. I wanted to do something else that kind of spoke to my soul a little bit more. And so there was, what I call 3 years of wandering in the desert, trying to figure out, well, maybe it's this. No, I don't think so. Well, maybe it's this, and all the while I was so timid. I was so unsure of myself. It's one thing to stand up in a board meeting and talk about numbers and the reports and all those kind of things, but it's a different thing to stand up and talk about how I can help you.
Yes.
How I can help you change your life to have the life that you want. Because suddenly it's about me. I mean, it's not about me, it's about them, but it's me standing up there, right? I'm not hiding behind any sheets of paper or any of that kind of stuff. And it was like, oh, this feels really hard. I'm not sure how I do this. And it took me a long time, and I still, when I come to do things like this, there's still those little butterflies, and you still kind of go, oh, what if I don't say the right thing? But I'm able to move forward from that, right? It doesn't keep me stuck
Yes.
like it used to.
When I met Jo Ann, we were taking this little course to try to develop better presentation skills, and specifically to try to put some humor into our presentations.
Yeah.
She was still doing her accounting, so she was trying to put humor into accounting, which was a challenge.
True.
Yes.
People don't like jokes about your money.
Yes. But I noticed that she did have a very good way of presenting herself, and she was just starting to put the idea together for her business. So it's great to see how far you've come.
Thank you.
So what are some of the issues that midlife women are facing today?
Well, besides all the COVID stuff, right, and being stuck at home with your children and trying to figure out how you're going to homeschool and do your job online and all of those kinds of things, there are several issues that midlife women have these days. One of them is, you've heard that term, the sandwich generation, right? You're taking care of your parents as they start to age. You still got kids at home, or you're putting them through college. And so you're trying to figure out how to make all of that kind of thing work. And one of the other things that happens around that time is that sense of identity. It's like, okay, who am I now? My kids are going off and doing all these wonderful things, and well, what does that mean for me? What about all the wonderful things that I wanted to have happen in my life? Mm-hmm. And related to that, I think there's that sense of guilt. Like you were talking a little bit about how, okay, I decided I was going to kind of splurge with my time, and I was going to take this Epsom bath, and I was going to enjoy it. And, there's always a little tinge of guilt behind that, right? As though, well, I can't really justify taking time for myself because I should be doing this and I should be doing that. And, oh, this person needs this and this person needs that. And so midlife women are dealing with that sense of guilt, right? Even though there's really nothing to be guilty about. You deserve to be able to take care of yourself and to have some time for yourself. And, related to that, I think there's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety over what the future holds for you, and certainly now in this time of the pandemic, there's all kinds of uncertainty that just drives you crazy.
Yeah.
And at that stage, I think there's also that sense of, have I missed the boat? Is my big, is it gone? Is it too late? Am I too old?
I was just going to ask you, the next question was, why is midlife so challenging for women? And I think that's it. You feel like, is it too late? Did I miss doing what I wanted to do?
Well, there's a lot of things that, there's a lot of programming that we have absorbed over the years. So, the younger generation, if you will, the millennials, and they face their own challenges, right? But for us in the boomer generation, we were raised with all those expectations about what a woman was supposed to do, what success looked like, what a mother was, and you know, this unselfish mother instinct, all of that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of judging that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do we face judging from the outside, but we judge ourselves. And that's probably the most damaging part, is
Yeah.
that we do that to ourselves. It's bad enough we have to get it from everybody else, but when we do it to our own selves, it's worse. And I keep looking down here because I have notes. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. But the other thing is we've stopped listening to our intuition. You know, when we're young, we think we know everything, right? And we know a lot, but what happens is that gets drummed out of us over the years, that we don't know anything, that everybody else knows how it ought to be for us, and we need to listen to everybody else, and we forget to listen to ourselves. And over time, that inner wisdom that we have gets dampened to the point where you can barely hear it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's an issue, I think, for midlife women, because they don't have that inner confidence in that inner guidance. They've kind of lost touch with that. So, you know, that's an issue for them too. And
so with the new, you know, like 30 is the new 20, 20 is, or 40 is the new 30, whatever.
right, well, it's like 60 is the new 40. That's kind of what they're trying to say.
When exactly is midlife, and does it happen at the same time for everyone?
Well, you know, people ask me that a lot when they see that, you know, I'm a midlife coach. They say, well, what does that mean? You know, I'm X years old. Am I in midlife? And I say, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with the number of candles on your cake. It really has to do with, where are you in your life's journey? Are you at that point where you're starting to question, where you're starting to wonder, okay, what's next for me? What do I want? Is it okay to actually want things now? I haven't been able to want anything up until now because there hasn't been any room for anything that I want. So to me, midlife is that space. And for some women, that's early 40s. You know, if you've had your children young or whatever that circumstance is. For other women, it's not until much later, 50, for some, it's even 60, when suddenly that sense of awareness comes, and that conversation that you start having with yourself. To me, that's the turning point. That's the tipping point, if you will, however you want to call it. That's kind of, to me, where midlife is.
Yes, I totally agree with you, but I think our attitudes have sort of changed in recent times. It used to be that, you know, you got to a certain age and you stopped.
Yeah.
You just kind of waited for your life to end.
Yeah, I know.
And I think people are rethinking that. So.
Well, I think part of that stems from the fact that we live so much longer, and we do it in relative good health. You know, in the old days, you get to be about late 50s, early 60s, and I don't know, you just kind of expected things not to work anymore. And you did kind of decide you were going to put yourself out to pasture. If you were lucky enough, you played bridge and played golf, and, you know, that was it. You didn't do anything else until you play with your grandchildren, and then, you know, it's all over. But nowadays, we're in much better health. We have an expectation. Our experiences are different. We have that expectation that it's not limited anymore.
Right.
So I think, you know, you're right. People are starting to say, well, look, I may be 60, but I could have 15, 20, 25 years ahead of me where I can expect to be healthy and productive. So what am I going to do with that? That's, you know, half a lifetime.
Yeah, that is very true. And so knowing what you want in midlife can be frustrating. What can women do to make it easier to, you know, discover what you want to do?
Yeah, it can be really frustrating. And I think you know, one of the things you have to do is you have to kind of deprogram yourself. You have to be able to start questioning all of those things that you kind of took for granted as the way it was supposed to be, right? All that programming that you had growing up. You really have to start questioning that and saying, well, how come? You know, why do I have to do that? Can't I do it differently? Who says that that's the way it should be? I've kind of paid my dues, if you will. I've worked, I've taken care of my kids, all those things. I'm at a point now where I get to choose. So that's the first thing. And, you know, like we talked about before, that sense of guilt over spending time for yourself, you got to get over that.
Yes,
Life's
definitely.
too short, right? So you've got to be able to say, I deserve to be able to explore my options and to see what else I can do. And, you know, sometimes the challenge in doing that is not what's going on in your own brain, but what's going on in other people's brains around you, right? Everybody has that kind of unspoken agreement about how things work in your marriage, with your spouse or your partner, with your children, with your friends. You have a role that you've played all of this time. And if you want to start changing that role, that impacts other people.
Yes. Yes.
And they
Sometimes
don't always like that idea, right?
Exactly.
And so you have to be prepared for the fact that there's going to be pushback, right? Some people want to be so happy, and you have to know what you want to do about that.
Yeah,
right?
it can even be people who totally don't even know you, and they're just upset because you're challenging the role that they feel they want to, live for themselves. And if you're not doing, what they think, then, it bothers them because, they
Well,
want.
I think it threatens them,
Yeah,
right? If
it
they
shouldn't.
see you're doing all these things, and in the quiet, they say to themselves, "Oh, well, I'd like to do some of those things too, but I'm afraid, or I don't have that opportunity, and so I'm unhappy about that." And then they kind of they bite.
Or even, like they see you doing something and they think that expectation might be put on them. And
Yes,
that's not what they want to do.
that's
They
true.
don't realize that it's okay for them to not want to do what you want to do. Like I had somebody ask me, why I was starting my business when I was, because they thought that I should be, seeking more security and, staying in a, more corporate environment that gave me all those, insurance and, paid vacations and stuff. And, what was behind it is that they wouldn't feel comfortable letting go of those things.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They don't have to, they're.
So often it is about them,
Yeah.
whenever someone comes to you and they're critical of something that you're doing, it is a lot of times because you're challenging their ideas of the way things are supposed to be. And it has a lot to do with what they're thinking about themselves. And so that's why you have to get over thinking it's all about me. When you're involved in things and someone is maybe a little critical, or they're not approving, or they're just kind of, we immediately say, oh, well, there must be something wrong with me, right? But it's not about you. You got to not make it about you, right? It's really about them, and you got to let them have that. It's like, okay, you can own that. I don't have to own that.
Yeah.
And if we learn to do more of that, not pick up other people's baggage and carry it around with us, we'd feel so much better. We wouldn't have that backpack full of anxiety and worry that we have. I've always thought, when I do a workshop, I want to do this example where you take rocks and you write down whatever the worry is that you have, right? And you stick it in the backpack, and everybody goes around and puts the rock in. And then you carry the backpack around for a while. Each person gets a chance to carry it around, and you realize all of the stuff that you're carrying around that you don't need to, right?
Yeah.
It's just that you don't get a lot of support unpacking the backpack.
So those limiting beliefs, actually, whether they're yours or other people's, they do hold you back and weigh you down. So what are some, good ways that we can, get rid of, let go
Yeah.
of those?
Yeah, there are various ways that you can do that, and I think certain things appeal to some people and other things appeal to other people. I think one of the first things is, again, to go back and question. Okay, if you make a list of, and we're so good at this, right? All the things that we don't like about ourselves, all the things that are wrong with us, and you make the list and you say, you look at them all and you go, and each one you say, well, why do I think that? Where does that come from? And a lot of times it comes from, if you keep going back, it's like something that happened to you when you were young. Something somebody said to you, some reaction that happened, or some kind of continuing, maybe whatever that is was a trigger for your parents for whatever reason. So every time you did that thing, they were like, oh, that's terrible. We can't stand that. Don't do that. And so you began to think, well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not, and maybe it wasn't all that wrong, but it was a trigger for them, and for them it was wrong. But you internalize that into thinking, oh, that's wrong. I'm wrong. Something's wrong with me. As a kid, we think it's all about us. We're so powerful. Oh, I made them mad. I was a bad person. And, we hang on to those things. We're not encouraged to re-examine those things. We're not encouraged to think about the fact that, well, we're not 8 years old anymore. We've learned a lot since then. And so you can revise that thinking.
You can, and sometimes it's even a lot easier than you think it'll be, because our beliefs and they become habits.
Yes.
Like one of my clients told me that every morning he laid in bed and thought about all the regrets that he had in his life.
Yeah.
He said sometimes it would just make him so tired that he couldn't get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what if you stopped doing that? He just looked at me like, how is that even possible?
I could do that?
But then, we talked about it a little more, and I said, what if you started doing this instead, and thinking about all of the good things that you were going to do that day.
Right.
And, he tried it and it worked.
It worked. Surprise, surprise. Yeah. And we go on autopilot, right? And we say things, oh, I'm not good at that. Oh, I always do this. I'm always late. I'm not good at math. I have no sense of direction. We'd say all of these negative things about ourselves that we picked up along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's an excuse, right? If I'm not good at directions, everybody else will drive. I don't have to drive, right? Or if, I'm bad at math, well, I never have to worry about trying to take care of the finances. Somebody else will take care of that. So sometimes we hide behind those things.
And sometimes it's a truth, but it doesn't have to be. You have the power and ability to change it, like, okay, I'm always late. Maybe that is true. Maybe you are always late.
But you're right.
Yeah, it is something you can change. Yes, it takes effort, but you can do that.
Yes. And so in order to change those limiting beliefs, the first thing you have to do is you have to question them. Is that really true? Is that, I mean, okay, people say, well, I'm short. Well,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
oh, you're short, right? You can't change that. But that's not something you have to keep dwelling on. And that doesn't preclude you from doing virtually anything except maybe be an MBA star, right? It's like, so
yeah, you have to examine your beliefs about that. I am short. I am short, and so what?
and what does that mean, right?
Yes, and then, you know, those beliefs that you have around it, I am short, so, you know, I can't be an NBA star. Well, did you want to be that anyway?
Or, you know, people say, well,
Yeah.
well, I'm short and nobody notices me,
Yeah,
right?
well,
You know,
maybe
it's
that
like,
doesn't have to do with you being short.
yeah, exactly.
Short
Or
people
people
that,
say, well, I'm short, I have short legs, and so pants never look good on me. Well, no, that's not true. It's like some pants don't look good on you, but others can, and you just can't have to, you know, hunt down somebody who will help you figure that out, right? And but when you say, well, I never wear pants because they always look bad on me because my legs are short. Well, that's a limiting belief, and that's a simple thing, right? I mean, you don't, your life's not over if you choose never to wear a pair of pants, but it's that idea that you tell yourself no, because essentially when you say that, you're telling yourself you can't wear pants. And so I don't know, I used to tell my kids, look, the world is full of people who are going to tell you no. So you don't need to be one of those people.
exactly.
You need to tell yourself yes,
Yes.
because there's plenty of other people that are going to tell you no.
And you need to be objective about yourself, you know, like we, as you said, we tell ourselves all kinds of negative things, and we believe them, you know.
Yeah.
But if somebody else tells me something, you know, like one thing that someone in the past told me was that I couldn't be a salesperson because I didn't have the right personality. You know, when they said that, it was like, what? Even though, you know, I don't know if I really wanted to be a salesperson before, but it was like, no, you can't tell me that.
Yeah.
So you got to do that same thing to yourself. You know, when you say one of those things, you know, that negative comments, you got to question.
So you have a feisty personality, right? And so when someone tells you no, that triggers you into wanting to question that,
Yeah,
right?
if it's an outside person, but I have, you know, in the past told myself a lot of, you know, negative things like that. And rather than having that, you know, reaction, I believed them for a long time anyway.
Well,
Luckily, you know, that I've changed that.
unfortunately,
Yes.
we all have a lot of those experiences when we're young where someone tells us something and we have to go along with whatever that is. And so we're conditioned to accept things being kind of foisted on us from the outside. And it's you know, it takes a lot of perseverance for a young child to be able to push back on that. Not all kids do. And as you grow up, you're
Well,
kind of,
I think you get conditioned into it, because I remember when I was really little, you know, anything somebody told me no to, you know, that made that, you know, doubly attractive. You know? But as I got older, you know, and you encounter school and the conditioning, that changed somewhat, because like you said when we were talking before the show, I wanted to be the good girl and I didn't want to get in trouble. So I started wanting to do those things that people told me were right.
yeah. Yeah. And, you know, that's how we get socialized into to being the nice girl, right? We find out very early that when we're not doing what other people want, our life gets more difficult. And
Really, yes.
so we learn to toe the line.
Yeah.
But where does that leave us in the end, right? And so
usually, once you see like that, it does well while you're in school. You know, you get good grades. You know, teachers like you. But then when you go into the business world, you're told, you know, you're not assertive enough. You
yeah, it works against you.
Yes.
But then, you know, they run up into the double standard in business, right? You're a bitch if you know, speak up for yourself and all of that. And if you don't, then they walk all over you and, you know, you're just somebody's doormat. So you darned if you do and darned if you don't. It's like, you know, you can't win for trying on things like that. But, you know, try to get rid of these limiting beliefs in addition to being able to first question it. Then you've got to replace it with a different belief.
Yeah.
And, you know, here's one of the things. Women in general tend to be really poor at accepting the good things about ourselves. You know, if you ask a woman to tell you about the things that she doesn't like about herself or the things she thinks aren't good, she'll give you a laundry list. And then if you say, okay, now I want you to tell me the good things about yourself, the strong points, that, you know, the great skills that you have, they give you a little list about this big.
Or many women have trouble even coming up with any. And
and so that's one of the first things you have to do is you have to learn to look for your strengths, because we all have them, and you have to accept them and be proud of them. And you have to, you know, rewrite that story of what you can and can't do, because that's the only way you're going to be able to pick yourself up and move forward.
So how can coaching, how can what you do help women to, you know, change this and to...
Well, you know, a lot of people say, well, why do I need a coach? There's like all kinds of self-help books in the bookstores, on Amazon. You know, there's all these people touting all of these things. It's like, I don't really need a coach. And what I say to people is that you don't need one, right? You can make change on your own, but you run into obstacles that you don't have to have if you have someone standing with you. So, you know, there's the issue of accountability. You know, it's like, I want to do whatever that thing is, but I get sidetracked here and I get sidetracked there. Well, a coach is not going to let you get sidetracked. They're going to help you stay on track. And then there's you run into an obstacle, right? Something doesn't come up right. Somebody gives you pushback. Somebody says something kind of snarky, and you're like, oh, okay, well, that obviously is not for me. I'm going to go back over here. But a coach will help you unpack that and help you see, well, what's behind that comment? How else can you see this? What other way can you interpret what they said? And besides, what does that got to do with what you want to do? I mean, how badly do you want to do this thing? It's all of those kinds of reminders. And so what happens is, when you have a coach helping you, when they facilitate your change, it happens faster.
Yes, exactly.
And it happens, you've got a higher chance of success when you have someone.
And a higher level of awareness.
Yes.
It's the same, you know, like most people can understand, like, okay, you can learn to play basketball without a coach. But if you have a coach, you're going to develop the skills quicker and probably go to a higher level.
Yeah, you won't develop those bad habits that, you know, when you teach yourself, because you don't know any better, right? You think, okay, well, this is the way I dribble and shoot the ball. Well, there's a more efficient way or a more accurate way to do it, but you don't know that. But a coach will know those things, and that's how they'll help you. I mean, you know, sports is a prime example. Mm-hmm. Very, very few athletes get to the top echelon of their sport without having a coach.
Well, yeah, they usually have to have a coach at some time, even if they have a lot of raw talent, you know.
Yes, a lot of them have more than one coach, you know. They have a skills coach, they have a mindset coach, they have a physical coach. I mean, they have the whole plethora of what they need. And they're not one bit ashamed of having a coach. I mean, sometimes I think people think that, well, there must be something wrong with me, that I can't do it myself. You know, it's a weakness to have to get somebody to help me. I should be able to do this. You know, it's all this pick yourself up by your bootstraps and do it on your own. Well,
And you can do that. It's just a whole lot harder.
it's harder, it takes longer, and it comes with more heartache. I mean, that's the bottom line. So, you know, when people say, well, why do I need a coach? I said, well, you don't need a coach, but life's going to be better with one.
So, what one change do you think makes the biggest difference in how we adjust at midlife and age more positively?
I think the biggest thing is developing your confidence in yourself, right? When you believe that you're worthwhile, you know, when you believe that you have value, then you're not going to take everybody's BS anymore. You're going to say, you know, this is what I want in life. I have a right to it. I deserve it. And I'm going to go out and get it. And when people knock you down or get in your way, you have the strength, the inner strength to pick yourself up and challenge that and move forward. And without that confidence, without that belief that you are valuable, you don't get very far, because life's constantly giving you stuff, right? And if you can't bat it back out of the way, you're just going to be stuck with a whole bunch of rocks in your backpack.
Yes, I forget who it is. She has a program called Know Your Worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gives you that confidence, knowing your worth and knowing you have value at that age. I remember going to a networking, actually it was a course, one of those weekend courses.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this woman who, she was probably in her late 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her, and she was a beautiful woman with a PhD, very smart. And I remember her saying, you know, I used to be really beautiful when I was young.
Oh, yeah.
And just looking at her saying, you know, you just don't know your value right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that, I think a lot of women right at that midlife point fall into that place.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, there's a whole thing about physical beauty, right? At the point where your body starts to change, as it's going to do. I mean, none of us escape that. You know, if you're some high-flying celebrity, you can spend money to have things nipped and tucked and whatever, you know, and you can stave it off for a while. But the thing is, that's not where your value comes from. You know, we all say that, but when we look in the mirror, we're like, oh, I don't know, you know, it would be nice.
I don't think there is a woman alive, no matter who she is, you know, the most beautiful high fashion model, who wants to be valued for her appearance only. You know, you hear so many that, you know, have been valued for their beauty.
Yeah.
And they want to be valued
For who they are.
for who they are, yes.
It's true. And I think that, you know, that's something that you have to come to terms with, right? As a midlife woman, your face is going to change, your hair is going to change, but what's inside, that doesn't change. That just gets better. And this is just the package. The package doesn't matter. It's what you have inside. And the sooner you can get past that. I mean, sure, we all do what we can. We color our hair, you know, we do whatever to try and keep looking as good as we can, and that's fine. But don't hinge everything on that, because that's nothing. And it's easy to say, right? And until you you really get like those big time wrinkles on your face and you're like, oh, I don't know. But it's really not about this.
Yeah, it isn't in your, how you feel on the inside. We all, I think it's hard to detach yourself from that because society puts so much value on it, and it's even part of how you grow up being
Oh yeah.
conditioned.
Yeah.
So, but if you've ever been in the position of somebody, putting that value on you, it doesn't feel good.
No.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So what is the biggest gift that you yourself get from this work that you're doing?
Oh, I get lots of gifts. I mean, it's like it's like selfish in a way to do this work, because when you see someone's life change, when you see someone, when it kind of dawns on them that, hey, I'm okay. There's nothing wrong with me. And then from there they go on to say, and this is what I want. And I deserve to get it. And they make changes in their life, and they get the life that they want, to
Yeah.
live the life that they're excited about. That's a great gift. That's the best gift. And then you think, oh gosh, and they pay me money for this too. It's like, that's a bonus.
Yeah, it does. And or they realize that they are just a special and unique person.
Yes.
You get to witness that.
Yes.
It does almost feel like, maybe you should be paying them. So,
Well, I wouldn't quite go that far.
yeah,
I
well,
can pay my rent.
true.
But yeah, I mean, that's really what it is, to be able to help facilitate someone's change, and help them get to the point where they are just giddy about their life, that they're doing the happy dance, every day, because they're living the life that they really want. They're not stuck in that woulda, coulda, shoulda, oh, did I miss my chance. I mean, just think what it would be like to,
Or even if they just see possibilities.
yes, that's the beginning. That's
Yeah.
the beginning. But I think, gosh, the idea of getting to the end of my life and realizing time's up, right? Whatever I wanted to get done, whatever joy I wanted to bring in this life or have in this life, that's it. And I don't know, it just gives me the chills to think that people would get to that spot and have that regret, like that fellow that you were talking about, right? That litany of regrets about all the things that I could have done, that I should have done, that I wanted to do, and now there's no opportunity. I mean, that's just like got to be the biggest heartbreak that you can think about. And if I can help a woman not have that at the end, right? So that there isn't that litany of regrets, but instead there's that joy over a life that's been well lived.
Yeah.
Well,
or just, like, I enjoyed it. And I had a good life.
exactly, a life well lived. That's what you can hope for at the end.
So we are almost out of time. If you could leave the audience with one thought from today's show, what would you want that to be?
To explore your possibilities, right? To open that door, take a look around, because there's wondrous things that you just have a little inkling for. So really, midlife is full of possibilities if you just open your mind to it.
Yes, in a lot of ways you have more freedom and wisdom at that point in your life,
Exactly.
and you can do a lot with that.
Yeah. And so you just have to, you have to avoid that idea that, oh, well, this is it. This is all there is. This is the best I can hope for. No, that's not true. That's not true.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you for being here today and
Thank
talking
you.
about this. And, I hope that, somebody out there listening, you know,
Yeah, I hope that they hear something that sparks something in them to make them, to start that awareness, because that's the first step, is to have that awareness that something more is possible, right?
so if somebody wants to get a hold of you, can you give your contact information?
Yes, my coaching business is called Midlife Rewritten. And so you can find me on the internet at midliferewritten.com. And you can also find me on Instagram at Midlife Rewritten. I also have, right now during this time of so much uncertainty, there's a lot of people who really could benefit by having someone to talk to, or having, just a little opportunity to kind of get out their anxiety. And so I've created this a little short website. It's called askcoachjoann.com. You can go there. There's a short little questionnaire, and you can tell me about what your issue is, send me the information, and I'll record a short little video for you, kind of giving you some ideas or some insights about the issue that you want some information on. And so you can find that again at askcoachjoann.com.
Okay, that sounds good. And she will do that for the first 20.
Yep, I'm happy with that.
That's a great offer. So thank you. And I have a quote for the audience to carry with them through the week, and that is, people may call what happens at midlife a crisis, but it's not. It's an unraveling, a time when you feel a desperate pull to live the life you want to live, not the one you're supposed to live. The unraveling is a time when you are challenged by the universe to let go of who you think you are supposed to be and to embrace who you are. And that was said by Brene Brown. So,
it's so true.
Yes, definitely. So we have another great show planned for next week. My guest will be Edie Weinstein. And Edie is a speaker and a journalist and a book writer, author. And she's been a radio host, and she's the founder of Hug Mobsters, and she, everything in her life basically revolves around communication. So her passion is really communication, and we're going to talk about that. She said that her mom told her that she started talking at 6 months, and she's never shut up since. So tune in next week for A Passion for Communication with Edie Weinstein.
That sounds great.
We are running a little late, and so I'm just going to say goodbye for now, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to Soul Fire Wisdom with Kate Olson. We hope you enjoyed the show. If we made you laugh, brightened your day, or sparked a new thought, we have succeeded in our mission. Join us next time when we'll share more secrets and truths and all the magic of transformation that is the journey to Soul Fire Wisdom. always remember, be fierce in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire.